Down in the comments section, someone was asking about whether or not I would wrestle in front of 10 fans. And I thought, what are you kidding me? 10 fans? I've wrestled in front of one. I'm Mike Quackenbush. This is Till We Make It, a video series that I make for professional wrestlers no matter where they are at in their journey, well on their way to establishing their legacy or just learning about the lifestyle. And when it comes to wrestling in front of small crowds, I am well versed. The 4 smallest crowds I ever wrestled in front of were 13 fans, 11 fans, 3 fans, and 1 fan. And that fateful day I wrestled in front of 1 fan was back in 1995 in Washington, Pennsylvania, in a junior high school on a day when I had been tasked with providing a best 2 out of 3 falls match. And you better believe I went to the ring and I gave it my all. And if you are in a similar situation, I want to offer you some insight into why you should do the same. As a bit of a disclaimer, if you've ever been in a locker room with someone who has a whole bunch of experience and they use something like this to justify what they're saying, it's good for the business. I want you to know I reject all those arguments out of hand. I don't think anything is necessarily good or bad for the business. It's all conditional. It's all circumstantial. Some things in a different context could be good for the business or bad for the business, and I happen to think a lot of it is just malarkey for poorly supported arguments. I've been fortunate enough to have thousands of matches across several decades in the course of my wrestling career, and yet I learned a whole lot of unique lessons on the only day I ever performed in front of 1 fan. And on the day that I was booked in Washington, Pennsylvania, it could safely be said that particular promotion had really only earned itself 1 paying customer. And in order for that audience to grow, what did the locker room need to do? If everyone booked on that day had gone to the ring and decided to just goof off, mail it in, or otherwise do less than their best, what entertainment experience would that 1 paying fan have left with? What would they have imparted to anybody else who asked them how much they enjoyed the experience? And would that 1 fan have turned into 0 fans if we had not gone out there and tried our very hardest? My personal philosophy, anytime I look out at a house and I see a very modest-sized crowd, is this. I want to make sure that every single person that did turn up leaves with an experience that's going to make them want to turn around and tell a friend. Because that's how 8 fans become 16, or 32, or 64, or 128, or whatever it takes to fill that building. It's when you give people an experience they want to go out and tell others about, thus converting the people that were in the house as customers into your marketing team. And if you ever find yourself in just such a circumstance, there's something you need to know about these exceptionally modest-sized crowds. Even if they are enjoying themselves, they might be more reluctant to make noise, to cheer and to boo and to clap and to chant than other audiences, because when there are so few of them, no one wants to be the first to make noise in that kind of environment. In a gigantic crowd, each member of the audience is granted a certain element of anonymity. And so starting a chant, or even a heckle, comes with no consequence whatsoever. But if you're in front of just 10 people, and one of them decides to start a chant which doesn't catch on, all of a sudden, it's even more awkward in the room. I sincerely believe that anytime you take the stage, you have a responsibility to all the paying customers in the house, even if the total number of paying customers is 1. And while, of course, it's important to prioritize that 1 customer in the house or any modest-sized crowd, remember everything else that could be going on behind the scenes. I've certainly been in a situation as a promoter where I've drawn a dreadful house. In fact, of those 4 lowest attended cards I ever performed on, one of them was one of my own. It took place back in 2003, up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. 13 paying fans on June 13th. I'll never forget it. So in situations like that, I very empathetically think of the promoter and what might be the end result of the footage that we're capturing that day. Is this going to be used as multimedia to be dispersed later on social media or some other platform? If so, then its value is far greater than just the live performance itself put in front of a very modest crowd. It could take on a life all of its own once it is delivered to another platform. And in fact, all it might take is for a short clip of that match of yours to end up going viral, for it to have infinitely more impact than you could have ever anticipated in the moment that you're performing. And I like to remind people all the time that you never know who's going to be watching the footage after the fact. What if there is someone out there that might be very closely associated to an opportunity you want for your career, who ends up reviewing that footage? What kind of impression will you be leaving with that person? Will they see someone who walks out, observes that the crowd is very modest in size, and then chooses to mail it in? Or will they watch someone who is undeterred by a small crowd and still goes out there and gives it their all? And if you've heard all of this and you're saying, Mike, the event that I'm on in front of virtually no fans, there weren't even cameras there. Nobody recorded it. Well, think of an opportunity to get in more reps. Unless you are completely content with every aspect of your professional wrestling performances right now, this is another opportunity for you to walk and experiment out on stage. Try something new, and then after the fact, analyze the data. Did it come in the way that you thought it would? Did it meet your expectation? Is this something that you're going to keep, or one day, with a little bit more honing, might end up on your greatest hits album? Every single time that you get in the ring, it's a chance to practice. It's a chance to experiment, even if the room is completely empty. Because at the end of that experiment, it will yield some data that you can use to make the next experiment even better. If a little more experimentation in your career is just what the doctor ordered, especially as it relates to the structural elements you use to compose your matches, or some of the performative elements, like your selling, then you may want to investigate my book. 7 Keys to Becoming a Better Performer, a book for fellow pro wrestlers, is available right now over on Amazon.com. Or, if you like, I will read you every word of it over on Audible.com, where it's available as an audiobook.